Hello, MotoAmerica fans, and welcome to this latest edition of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I have Carruthers on my right, and this is a special episode for us, not only because we're at Road America, which is, I think, Paul, we love this place quite a bit.
It's awesome.
We'd have 10 rounds here. But we are joined by Freddie Spencer, a man who we've wanted to talk to for a long time. And if I gave you, it would be a whole podcast talking about what Freddie's done in his career. But let me start by saying world champion back in the two-stroke area, won 250 and 500 in the same year, the only rider that's ever done that. He's now a steward. I went on to chairman of the stewards.
Yes. MotoGP stewards.
Yes, thank you. And he's also the man in charge of all the Royal Enfield Build, Train, Race programs. So it's really cool this year. I'm going to jump right into this because I got to ask Freddie about this. I don't know if I'm right on this, Freddie, but when you had your school back in Vegas, did you actually start the Yamaha Champions Racing School, kind of, technically?
Well, Nick Einach, who basically obviously started that.
Yep.
We started with one of the other instructors, Ken Hill.
Yeah,
they were my instructors at the school. And so the program I developed there and started in 97 after I stopped doing it at the end of 08. Nick, and then they went to Utah, which we were running up there, and it was great because then they could kind of step into doing that, and they did that for a few years. And then when that ended, he started the champion school, and it's great. I go back every once for a couple of times in the fall now, and it's really cool because all the guys, all the instructors, Nick says spend time with them, because he tells them all the stories about what we did in Vegas and when it started. And so it's great. It's a continuation, but it's also an evolution.
Yeah.
Which is good because, there's things, just all the street bike they do, and they work with a lot of police departments and many things that I had ideas about and we had talked about, just didn't get around to being able to do that. So it's great. And for me, it's kind of cool to see that continue.
So I'm a graduate of the Freddie Spencer School.
There you go. A fine pupil right here. So what we just did here is we realized that
thank you, Paul.
most people
graduated. You got a certificate and everything.
I did.
I have it somewhere.
Your tassel's still hanging from the rearview mirror, isn't it? But what this is for most people that go to Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But with you, it didn't. It kind of went away from there, and it went elsewhere. And another adage I'll say, because my wife is a teacher, and she hates when people say those that can do and those that can't teach. You did, and you also teach.
Yeah, it's that is a very interesting subject, and that we could do a whole podcast on talking about. There's many riders who understand what they do to ride, and don't talk about it, or they don't. It's probably just as many or more that just do it on their instinctively, and they never get around to understand it from that standpoint. I was very fortunate because I'm self-taught. I learned in my yard how to ride, but I also had many great people that I got to work with. My dad and I pitted next to Irv Kanemoto. Was in Mid-Ohio at a Wera race at the end of the year, and when I was 15, and Irv was there with Gary Nixon and Randy, and I ended up winning the 250 race. It was raining, and I won the race, and beat those guys. And so Irv came over to the truck and talked to my dad, and that's how I got hooked up with Irv.
Wow.
And so working with Irv taught me all the things I needed to understand about how motorcycle works. And we spent 1979 traveling around all the races here before we, went to Europe. And so it was that learning experience, and I was just a sponge. And I always liked understanding how things work. And that's the other part too, that I think is you have to be interested. You have to be, curious about it. And I always felt that if I could help the bike work with me, or I could make changes to work with the bike, it'd make a difference. And that's what helped and benefited me once I got to Grand Prix and HRC that first year. Such a new program, incredible engineers, as everybody that was involved in HRC in the beginning went on to be stars and, superstars throughout Honda and development of all the bikes that we loved over the years, products and race bikes. But fortunately having them and then someone like me who had made it such a priority to understand how bike works, my interaction with the bike and how it could work is what may help make that program, in the beginning, because I could give them decent information,
right.
And so we didn't get going off the wrong directions, or if we did, we could, correct.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've asked riders this before. Some riders will come in and they'll make all kinds of signals about what the bike's doing or whatever. And some of them will be really specific about what they want to have changed, ride height or preload or whatever.
Yeah.
What were you like? Did you explain kind of in numerical kind of figures or how?
Not so much figures, just I understood how everything worked. And there again, Irv helped me understand that in ways to recognize what it felt like. But that was also trial and error. And so, again, that benefited me tremendously for the 85 season when we were developing 2 brand new bikes and I was developing the radial tires. And there was such a huge difference in the performance between the bias and the new radials. And so I could come in and real quickly understand, or I should say I could go out on the track and in one lap, understand if something worked or didn't. So I spent more time running one lap, low runs during those 8 days I was in Australia testing the 250 and 500, because, and then I could recognize it come in and we didn't waste time going different directions. So my big asset for me, I would say, would be the fact that I could recognize if it didn't work. I knew based on my understanding of preload, rebound, compression, spring rings, oil, all the different things that we could change. So that I had that combination of both.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't waste a lot of time because you didn't have a lot of time to waste.
No, I didn't. And that benefited me, obviously, as we got into that season of 85 when, in the beginning, the bike that was the most underdeveloped, 250 was great. The 500 was not good in the very beginning. When chatter steer, nothing. And so, but because, I could separate the two, I was really good at doing that. Jumping from one bike to the other in one lap, I'd be up speed on 250 or vice versa. And then again, because practice sessions, I didn't have time to debrief after them. So I'm in the practice telling them things that I want them to work on and remembering things after the second session
on the other bike,
and then coming back to it, because, with the 500, especially in the beginning of the season, we were changing crankshaft mass every week, chassis, engine positions. We could not get it to work with the new radial. It was so funny. I tested the radial and I always kidded Eddie about it. I said, you don't have to thank me too much for that because it worked great on the Yamaha. He went around. It was chattered so bad at that first race in Kyalami. I chipped it too. I really did. And he went around me and won the race, I said, that's okay. Say thank you later. And we were laughing about it. But.
All right. I got one more for him before.
Because we do need to talk about build training.
Yeah, but I got one more. I just want to ask you about this 85 season. So here's Freddie Spencer at night, lying in bed, just sitting there in the dark, kind of starting to doze off. Do you ever think to yourself, how the hell did I win 2 world championships in 1 year? I mean, are you kind of amazed about that yourself? Really?
Well, I don't know so much about amazed. I can tell you what I thought many times. How about this?
Okay.
I'd be laying in bed at night and I'd wake up and I go, who in the heck thought of doing that? And then I look in the mirror and I go, well, me. So I didn't have I couldn't go too far to blame someone. No, it's one of those things where I'm appreciative, thankful for it. I had an incredible team, everything lined up, for us to be able to do it. And it goes back to what I was saying about my preparation and what I always tell people why I love teaching. And I used to talk with Nikki about this is you accept the talent you have, you learn as much as you can about the equipment, the tools you have to work with, and then you learn to do whatever you can do to make the adjustments to work with those tools and that talent to get the most out of it. And fortunately, that's what I was able to do.
Wow.
All right, can I change
Yeah,
this?
you can go ahead. I'm glad I got
Royal
that.
Enfield Build Train Race. It's starting this weekend.
It is.
It's not the reason we're having you here. We're having you here for multiple reasons, but that's the reason we need to talk about it at this point. We'll do the other stuff another time. Sean can have 4 hours or whatever.
I'll need 4 hours at least.
That's okay. I don't mind.
So we're getting started with that. You've been through the obviously the build, the train.
Yes.
Now, you have 6 girls, I think, that are returning and 6 new ones.
That's right. This program, the Build, Trade, and Race program with Royal Enfield, is something I'm really excited about. It's such a great concept, and I respect Royal Enfield. I've known them and worked with them a little bit in the last 6 years. I did a little launch for the GT 650 in the Isle of Man, just photos and stuff. This was about 6 years ago. And the GT 650 Cup, which is what they do in India, the Build, Train, Race program is a variation of that here in the United States. And it's really all about the individuals. And it's all about teaching young ladies of all different abilities and different backgrounds that they're motorcycle enthusiasts. They want to learn how to ride better. They want to learn how to build the bike. They're very hands-on. And then we come to 4 rounds and they got the experience of racing. And I came on board at the end of last season. I was approached by them to kind of come on and really help with the structure of the build part and the train part, getting them prepared for the race. And I was really excited about it because, I'm a firm believer in the grassroots. Racing and riding is local. It really is. It's where you build the enthusiasm. You do it as a family, your dads, your sons, daughters, in this case. You get opportunities. And so we had over 90 applicants in a matter of 4 or 5 days. And we had to narrow it down to 6. Wow. And I tell you, you talk about high pressure of 85.
Yeah.
This was tough.
This was harder than
This is hard.
How do you decide? What are the criteria?
Well, the criteria is numerous things. Is just their general, reason, for doing it. Certainly their story. One of the great things about this, and I think it's very important, and Royal Enfield is doing a great job of this, is the content, the media content. This is about showing it from beginning to end. The starting process, the build process. We did that in Dallas, workshop in Dallas. A friend of mine, Butch Boland, who I've known my entire life, I got him on board, and he's from that area, and a local dealership there, used bike dealership, Used Bikes Direct, there in Grand Prairie. They are letting us use the workshop, and these are all people who are motorcycle enthusiasts to come together to support this program. And so we really wanted to create an environment for them to, and this year, in one place as a team to build team spirit and teamwork together. And so that's kind of how it started. Then we did the training process there in outside Fort Worth, the track in Crescent.
Oh, Crescent. That's a good track.
Yeah, it is. And, I got Nick Inetch. Nick came and helped me for the 2 days, along with Scott, who's the team manager. And we taught him how to start. We did a couple of mock races, all the things prepared. I got them working in corners about how to carry more speed and entry positions and things. And they just pick it up and take it all in. And it goes back to what you said about my school. I love teaching, and I really do. And I love sharing what the sport's about and what it's given me. And I've said this a lot, and I said this in my book, that racing or just motorcycling taught me how to believe in my own abilities and judgment. And, it's fortunately given me the chance to travel around the world and do things that, a kid from Shreveport, Louisiana, when there was no racing around my area, to accomplish the dreams. And again, that's again what this program is about, that Royal Enfield is giving these ladies an opportunity, and we're supporting that and encouraging it.
Is there an advantage to coaching somebody that doesn't know anything? Like, because there's no bad habits, right? I mean, it's like if you're teaching a kid to throw a baseball and he'd never thrown a baseball, you could teach him the right way, as opposed to if you got him when he already didn't know the right way. Right.
It's that is true, because when you don't have any bad habits, it certainly is easier to make the change. They're a lot easier because they're just open-minded. But at the same time, even the riders from last year, they have experience, but they had just a year experience in this program. But they're all somewhat new racers. It's not really, they're not in it. It's not about being a champion. It's about achieving and pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, and doing it in the right way, and that's where we come in. We give them where it's safe, and also teach them how to get the most out of themselves. So yeah, there is that, where if you have less bad habits, it's somewhat easier to fix. Yeah.
It's funny because I've talked to a couple of the girls over has it been 2 years they've been here?
Yeah.
2 years?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are really green, right?
3 years,
I mean, they're
yeah.
just like, they're really new to all of this.
Right.
And one of them, I went and talked to her after a practice session. I said, look, I know going around the corners scares you probably, but I said, there's no reason why you can't hold it wide open on the straightaway. You'll gain 2 seconds without scaring yourself. You just have to brake a little sooner.
Right.
And she did that and she was amazed, but you can't imagine that somebody wouldn't have already known to go wide open on the straightaway.
Well, and that's where having the school, when I started the school, it's funny. You talked about Vegas. When I first announced the school in September 96, you remember that they had an AMA National at Las Vegas.
Yeah.
That was the first event they had at the track. And they had an AMA and Superbike National. And so I announced I was going to have a school in Vegas. And they go, who's going to come to Vegas? And I said, well, hopefully a lot of people. But that also, I was providing the bike. And, in those days, really, and before, it was about, well, you got to learn on your own bike. And that's not the case. I mean, technique is technique. But understanding what an inexperienced rider goes through certainly helps in this program, because I understand that. For example, very basic technique. You see someone that's not accelerating, you teach them how to brake properly, they'll accelerate more.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Because the fear is if can I get stopped?
Right.
And so understanding that basic concept fixes many things. And it was so much fun in the 2 days we had at Crescent and the couple of the mock races we did. And so they try and work so hard.
Yeah.
And they must just be unbelievably nervous.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're doing this in a pretty big stage.
Yes.
And their first time. I mean, that's got to be hard.
I know. And some of them probably were listening to you were talking about how big the crowd was going to be. And actors there too, that many people, it's exciting and scary all at the same time, And so.
Well, when you touched on this, so we all have, maybe not you, we all have limitations. And I think our actual real limitations in almost anything are beyond what we think they are.
100%.
Especially with riding. So that must be that must be like a real epiphany for them to realize that they can go so much faster than they thought they could.
Yeah. And the thing is that, again, one of the things, doing 11 years and, 6,000 students came through the school in Vegas that I had. And I only missed 4, and 2 of them was when my parents passed. So I was there every school, and I rode most of the students and loved it. It can recognize that. I can see by the way someone's sitting on the bike, as their comfort level, and then you watch them ride, and then you start putting the things together, and I know it helps when I look at them and I say, listen, I know you can do it. I wouldn't. Because trust me, I wouldn't tell you if I didn't believe that. Okay, so you can relax. Because that's the other thing too, is a lot of it, Paul, is the fact of they accelerate down the straightaway and they get in the corner and they're not even going near the speed that they can, and the bike won't turn because they're just locked, And so you get them to relax, get them to see, trust, which it helps, where you start that trust. And then I can say, you do this, this, and this, and the bike will do this, or you're trying to, as we were talking, you're not accelerating. We're going to fix this, and then you'll feel comfortable. So yeah, I did.
I mean, it'd almost go around the corner by itself if you didn't mess with it.
Exactly.
But the problem is you mess with it.
Yeah.
I said one time I crashed in qualifying in '85 in Silverstone because it rains all the time. And so I came in, I got the bright idea because I got a bonus money, for being pole. So I told her, I said, put the rear slick on, we'll keep the intermediate front on. It'd be fine. He goes, well, the groove's only about 3 feet. It was just a little bit of groove. So I said, oh, it'd be fine. It'd be like back in the day, flat track. And I can deal with a groove 3 feet wide, no problem. So I go around first lap, and it's my last fly lap. I go down in turn 1. And so I turn in and I'm fine. And then the front kind of tucked, and then I saved it, but it put me right on the outside white, the
Where it's wet.
high side of me. And at high side of me, I hit the ground. The bike never hit the ground. It went perfectly through the corner, Yeah.
It would have been fine if the rider wasn't on it.
Right.
I know. And I was chasing it. And so I was chasing it, and you're supposed to go to I didn't realize it was that little bit of time left. So I'm chasing, the medical guys are chasing me, and I was trying to get back to the pits, but anyway.
Well, so there's a huge disparity among talent with these girls. I mean, we have Kaylee Bike, who won the championship last year. She's back again. So is she advanced more than the other riders? And
well,
and she teaches too. I think
she does. And Kaylee really is a good rider, and we have a couple of young and different age riders that this year that have pretty good experience.
Yep.
That it's going to be very competitive, and Kaylee knows that, and so she's been working on, and that's one of the things is after Crescent we've talked, and some of them they do track days and work on, of course, and work on certain techniques, but it certainly helps the riders that come from riding the bike last year. They've been here before, and so they know what to expect. But I think it's going to be, we're not sure. That's what's going to be great about, once we start tomorrow, all the things they've worked on, they're going to be better than they were, even at Crescent, because they've worked on I just tell you, one thing to work on is, trail braking, getting the bike controlled, turned, short amount of time, loading the front, you can carry more speed. Here, you're more confident using the brakes at some lean angle. You wait a lot later to brake. You can, because you can carry more entry speed. And so they've all been working on those things. And that backs up from their straightaway speed, accelerating more, and off the corner. You get better drives. You can get the bike pointed better. And they've all been working on that, and as well as Kaylee. Kaylee will be faster than she was last year. So
we see this happen a lot in like little league baseball or stick and ball sports. These kids will watch TV, they'll watch Major League Baseball, and they'll emulate some things. And I'm not sure so much if Royal Enfield does it. You can tell us this, but I'm thinking about body position, and you think about back when Mick Doohan raced and how he had that strange racing style that Norik Abe did and Larry Pegram did, and you were more conventional, I think. Yeah. But then now they're dangling their foot. What are you telling these? Do you teach them how to drag their knee? Or
well, yeah, that one of the things that certainly you see, and not so much the dangling of the foot, but all the riders are getting more off the inside of the bike. That's because you're carrying more speed and more lane angle. There's so much talk about dragging the elbow. Yes, but they're leaning off quite a bit more.
Than we
did.
Yes.
And so there was, that's one of the things. Side grip is better, edge grip, profile of the tires, and just corner speed is higher, so it requires more lane angle. On these bikes, that's not so much the case.
Right.
And so, but we obviously teach moving the body to learn how to change direction at the speed appropriate for the corner. One of the things I'm having working on here is in 1 and 3 is that's a more gradual turn in. The emphasis there is where you're looking, eyes, because of the speed. It's a big racetrack. It's a wide racetrack. Looking and maximizing your entry speed and with brake pressures needed, but your body. And then you go down into 5, and that's a much quicker change of direction. On amateur riders, that's one of the factors, is because they don't have the experience, is how to get the bike turned the proper speed to put the bike at the right point in the middle of the corner to maximize your exit, and so we work on that, and then we'll continue working on that throughout the weekend, and so it, that part, body position, getting off the bike, it wouldn't be like a Grand Prix bike, but it's still, one of the factors that I taught when I was teaching school.
Have these riders looked up who Freddie Spencer really is? Do they know?
They probably had to Google right away.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
I mean, but seriously, do they? What they're getting is invaluable, and it's on a level that people would go nuts to be able to get and hear from.
Well, we've gotten to know each other obviously
Yeah.
pretty well, and spent a lot of time in Dallas. And, well, not a whole lot, Dallas. We just started the program,
Right.
So we've had the 5 days in the build part, and then 2 days training, and this first race. And I will be at 3 events. I'll be here, then I'll be at Brainerd because of my GP commitments.
Yep.
I won't be at the Ridge and then Pittsburgh, but I'll be continuing to work with them. And yes, they're very, very appreciative, and for me, it's a privilege. They know how much I enjoy it, and helping them, and want to see them do well. So
yeah, because you're a teacher. I bet you would. I mean, it's got to be thoroughly satisfying to have that.
Yeah, it is.
Am I going to do the elephant in the room?
Yes, you are. That's why I just did the softballs. You go for the hardball.
Well, you know what I found out today that really crushed me?
What?
I'm older than Freddie.
I
was certain that he was older than me.
I knew,
and I'm not going to say how old we are, but we're like 6 months apart. But I thought it was 6 months the other way.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty crushed.
Yeah. You should see him. It's
like so deflated.
It's so deflated.
He's like, I've known you since you were this big, and I'm like, well, you were about that big.
Yeah. And so we determined the only reason why he thought I was older is because
bigger.
I was taller than he was.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
I didn't say shorter.
Right. No, you did a good job with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're all around the same age, but I knew Freddie was a little bit younger than
Vertically
me.
challenged is what I like to go with.
Yeah.
So we've got to just talk real quickly about your MotoGP experience, because I've known you forever.
Right.
Not since birth, but
forever.
Almost.
And every time I hear Freddie, and it's, I'm like, oh my God, poor Freddie.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about poor Freddie.
Yeah, no, it's not, but it's obviously as part of the FI MotoGP Stewards panel. I've been doing it since 19. It is the most challenging job, as you can imagine, and basically what has changed since I started is just the amount of personnel. Being chairman, my job has come in and from a rider's perspective, but also just as the program grew. And we have over 90 cameras now, counting the CCTV, that we can have access to. We have a race control suite that monitors anything from when the crashes and all of the time, so that we more accurate with when they do shortcuts or track positionings, go off the track limits. If we give someone, they have to lose a certain amount of time. And with the cameras and the personnel that I have, the goal has always been to increase our ability to be able to, analyze situations in short amount of time. If we are going to give change of positions, do it in an appropriate amount of time, that lap, if possible, or less. So from our side, my side, that's what we've always worked toward. One of the things that I know that people are, and I've told you, I can't talk about incidents or anything, but one of the things we always are working toward is the balance of race incidents and incidental, contact. One of the things, as I was explaining earlier, and in the last race was perfect. France was what we would like to see. We have the greatest sport, motorsport, in my opinion, in the world. And it's the greatest show. And it's also, the best riders, the best opportunity. And we always want to see them perform and be able to do their job. There's, over the last few years, there's been, from the rider side, from the Safety Commission side, and the riders meet, the MotoGP riders meet every Friday. There was a push about, contact, and, what is incidental, what's racing, what's too much. And, it got to the point a few races ago where it was just, too much, not too much contact, but it's where there shouldn't be any involvement. It should be race incident. We all agree with that. And if it's too much, if it's race affecting, there will be change of positions. That's going to be the first course of action, as it should be, and then we'll move forward from that. But the riders understand that, and as much as anything, what you see in this world today in our sport, and a lot of people need to understand, is it is so competitive and so difficult. The pressure, there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of from the rider's standpoint. And I understand that, from our side, it's safety and fairness. And, but we want the riders to be able to race. And that's what we saw in France.
I think that's it.
It's really good.
We're getting the signal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we can keep going. I mean, I'm going to go a little bit after we get off here. So you fans aren't going to get to hear what I'm going to ask them, but there's going to be a couple more things. But we're here at MotoAmerica, Royal Enfield Build Train Race, and Freddie's in charge of it. He's got these girls ready to go, ladies ready to go, and we're going to get to see them race. It's going to be exciting and great that you're part of our paddock again, Freddie. It's good to have you here.
The last thing I would like to say is, AMA race is where I started, and it's so great that MotoAmerica is involved in Wayne and Chuck and everybody, and we're all here to support that and give these ladies a chance. But there's no better sport. So everybody stay tuned and watch.
Well said.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.